Hi, welcome to Cherie's weight loss journey. Okay, it's Saturday. Another day. Woke up today and shit, the temperatures is in the 40s in some areas and in the 50s, in the low 50s in other areas. So, yeah, that's a 50-degree difference from what we had during the summer for many months. I have been thinking about, codependency and the things that we do without knowing that, there's a primary consequence, a secondary consequence, and so forth and so on. Anyway, I placed an order for some protein snacks. The Nature Valley almond, yes, love it. Sweet and salty, and the Quest protein bars, the s'more flavor, because I'm liking it, right? I'm liking it. So yeah. And then I also decided to go ahead and try out the Quest protein nacho cheese flavored chips. And as soon as I got them, I was like, I gotta try these, right? And they were so good. They were so good. I was like, oh my gosh, this is good. And I brought some of that with me to work today. Also, I brought with me the chili that I had made. And a bottle of the seltzer water. I would truly love, to maintain eating these snacks, but they're definitely more expensive than, the regular bag of Cheetos, right? If you buy a regular bag of Doritos, for what I paid for a small bag, I could have got a large bag. But, typically, I really don't need a large bag. I shouldn't be eating a large bag. But, the principle of the matter is the cost, right? That's the principal matter, is the cost. Been thinking about how I been thinking about the real definition of codependence and how it's used in tarot land, right? In tarot land, they make codependent a term, that's not quite accurate, right? See, that's one thing that people will do. when, they overgeneralize, misconstrue the definition of meanings of words, and then they try to say, well, this is the culture, this is the tradition, and and English language is always changing, right? Like when they thought it was cute to make what's bad good, right? Remember, who's bad, and they try to make it into something that was admired, something that was, I don't know, revered almost. And it's like, well, gee, if y'all keep doing that, how are you truly, going to truly be, united? When you're constantly defying against the etymology of a word, right? Or maybe you think that it's your duty to change the meanings of words as you use them. And I personally think that that's, manipulative, trying to confuse people and then tell them how you mean it, because you don't want to use the standardized method of what's in the dictionary, just so that you can leave people wondering and confused, and I don't know. To me, that's just insane. It's an insanity to think that it's cool to confuse people and then tell them how they're supposed to interpret something or a thing, and then just automatically expect that they go along with it. And honestly, the majority of people that seem to do that are people who really lack education. They lack education, so they make it up. They make it up as they go along. And I find that to be interesting, because it's kind of been accepted, and the reason why it's accepted is because they want the uneducated to accept their disposition, right? If you're accepted for being inadequate, then you're going to remain thinking that you're acceptable. you're not going to try to grow. Okay, so here's another thing that, seems to be a popular theme in America and, globally, right? That, men will use women as if, they are like money, like they're a currency, which they do have currency for sure, right? But it just trips me out the way that they demean and then devalue women, and they say that they're doing this out of love. And of course, it's been prophesied that men would be lovers of themselves, and we see that, larger than life, that they are lovers of themselves. And one of the things that I was thinking about was what's that, the Godfather movie, right? Where Tony, had just left is that Venezuela or something like that, and had came to America, and he had seen that his boss, right, had this beautiful woman, and he called her a tigress, and he was going to he wanted the tigress, right? Because he felt like with the money comes the tigress, and all of the things that the world that he wanted, right? So he ended up killing her man and then taking her, and then he spent, I don't know how long, but he spent a long time realizing that him and this woman had nothing in common, right? That that they didn't even enjoy each other's presence, but he was determined to use this woman as his status symbol, right? And he was complaining how she couldn't even give him kids, and what good is she, and yay, right? And it was just like, so you went through all of that to finally come to the realization that what you thought you was creating was definitely an illusion, right? Because every chance she got with other people. Yeah. Sometimes she just got with other people just to console herself, because she didn't like Tony, because Tony was, in her mind, unsophisticated, barbaric, and there was just nothing attractive. They didn't speak the same language, and definitely not the same love language. Okay. So, yeah, I was thinking about that movie. And then, made a comparison, to what happens here in our society, right? Because men, they feel like, well, if they have the money, then they'll get the girl, right? And then, they'll live happily ever after. Well, what I have noticed is they always have a plan to get the girl, but they really don't have a plan about, what exactly is the happily ever after, right? It might be just, a house or an event, or there's nothing complete. So they're not long-term thinking. The whole reason why you get into a relationship, it stops after they get the girl, right? It stops after they get used to having sex with the girl, or it stops after they finally achieve the house, the car, and the kids, and then it stops. They don't see themselves as a family man. They don't see themselves as as a grandfather. They don't see themselves really connected to people, right? They prefer to be connected to things, and as a result, they happen to turn people into images of just things in their life. Then they end up blaming everybody else, that their simulation is jacked up, so what really had blew my mind though was they think that they're doing a service to mankind, right? So if they take down a bad broad, right? If they take down a bad broad, then they feel like they did a service to the men that may have thought that they would never have a chance at a bad broad, because now this bad broad has been knocked down a notch or two, and I'm like, wow, y'all really think this way, y'all really think this way, and it was like, yeah, they think this way, they don't think that it's appropriate to allow a woman and other men find each other and be in love, right? They want to experience what you're going to get before you get it, right? I know that sounds awful, and that's why I had to kind of force it out of me, because that's the type of thinking that is one of, jealousy and envy and like, yeah, I don't think that, this woman's going to be, the woman of my the woman of my in my life forever, but I'll break her in for you, and it's just like, what? And then these other men, they're like, oh, let me heal you, let me take care of you. I'm not going to be such a bad man as him. And, women are like, look, you guys are really fooling yourselves to sit up here and think that, we don't see this game that you're playing. And if I can see it, other people can see it too. Okay? So then, I drifted back into, the 6D. Okay? We're not going to say the 5D. I drifted back into the 6D, right? And then the 6D is like, oh yeah, you were taught just the opposite of what's acceptable, in spirit, which is how you ended up here on earth in the first place. And I'm like, what are you saying? And they're like, yeah, you came down here because, you were lustful. Like, what? Yeah, because you were lustful. And if, you don't recognize your lust, then, you'll have, a long time, to recognize it, should you, not do anything, that will cause you not to be able to be reincarnated, right? But typically, if you're going to be in servitude to God, right? Typically, if you're going to be in servitude, to God, you're not going to, put your partner, in front of God, right? Therefore, you're not going to really be able to have a partner. One of the things that, I tried to philosophize was, okay, if you have two people, who are trying to, jump through the threshold of heaven, either these people have to be equally yoked. That's it. That's the only way. They would have to be equally yoked. Equally yoked means that when you get together, that you are truly as, as one, right? Most people out here, they're not. they're just a marriage of convenience, something to get by, but they're not, as one, which means, trying to get into heaven with somebody on those bases is almost impossible. If not impossible. So yeah, I was then thinking about, so what is going on? Well, a lot of what has happened is a lot of men have felt like, if they got with a pure woman, that they could latch on to the hemline of these women and get into heaven, and they can't. They just can't. It's not going to happen. But I guess it's cool, to tell them that, or allow them to tell themselves that, so that they don't just give up. Look at Dallas. Yeah. Which is probably one of the reasons why, they decided to put it into the Bible that, you can always repent and come back to God. Which, technically is the main reason why we're here. Because, we had separated ourselves from God. And therefore, we wanted to be lustful, right? However, they were like, well, if you want to be lustful, you can only be lustful, without doing harm. Otherwise, you become a devil, right? And this is why they tried to figure out some kind of way where, people can be lustful and indulge in their vices in the fairest way that they could conceive, right? And because it had just blew my mind, that the way men will approach life. They will approach life trying to figure out what they have to do, and then how much they can do, that breaks the rules. Right? And they want to, it's almost like they want to factor this in so that, they can play this game of challenge, right? And then push the boundaries. So if if we understand why they're doing this, most of it is because, you know, they're also indulging in drugs, alcohol, and a lot of different addictions, right? And you can be addicted to anything, right? But everything in moderation. Like, yeah, otherwise you become addicted to whatever it is: food, sex, drugs, alcohol, television, social media, you know, aesthetics, right? That's a histrionic, you know, where they just, you know, are just so obsessed with, you know, their looks and, yeah, power, right? You can get addicted to power for sure. So, yeah. These were some of the things, you know, that I was thinking about yesterday. So, I'm like, okay, so, you know, one of the things that had crossed my mind was, you know, how unusual and unacceptable for, say, somebody to come to this earth, not have kids, and not have, you know, any sex, right? Say a person who dies a virgin. Yeah, that's like, what? You died a virgin? You know, and then I had to ponder, you know, what could possibly be the reasons as to, you know, why that is so unacceptable. Okay? And, you know, the reasons was kind of weird, for sure. Because you know, it didn't make sense to me. But if you think about it, right, a person who, you know, dies a virgin, you know, they really don't have any ties, you know, compelling them to ever come back to earth, right? They spent their whole life basically, you know, being in service, right? Not really indulging, you know, in the, at least the physical lust of, you know, involving somebody else in your lust. So then it had me, wondering, were we taught wrong? And it's like, well, yeah, there's this balance, that has occurred where, you know, on one hand, you kind of want to, keep the species going, But then, on the other hand, by not keeping the species going, then you become, you know, a divine being in service to God. And I was just like, okay, you know. But what we don't know, is uh, this lustful state that we're in, you know, is not the end all be all. Okay, it's not the end all be all. So, you know, we can only imagine, you know, what it would be like at the next level, you know, and mhm, you know, um, yeah, it gets interesting, and we wonder, you know, will we see, you know, our ancestors there? Will we see, you know, our family members there, our loved ones there, you know? And I guess that's very similar to how people think about relationships, you know. Once you get into a relationship, you know, you don't really think it through beyond, you know, just kind of stuck on just getting there. And then once you're there, you know, you're trying to think about, well, you know, I done spent all of this time trying to get here, you know, was it really worth it? Right? So anyway, I just spent about 40 minutes, you know, talking about this because this one was really, really, you know, stretching, you know, my ponderings, because my thought is still, you know, that you come into this world alone, you're going to die by yourself. Period. Um, and yes, you know, you would love to have these connections, and then, you know, then these connections, you know, let you down, and then, you know, you go on another quest. The sad part about it is that a lot of people, you know, are going on these individual quests while, you know, dragging people with them, and they're not really, you know, equitable with these people that they're dragging with them. And, you know, these people end up being damaged or hurt, or stolen from. So yeah, uh, that's some of the things that had crossed my mind. And then it was like, well, how do you get around that? Well, we could have got around that if, we hadn't indulged in, such lustful behaviors, right? And the bottom line is, when you were probably 3 years old, you were told God is love, right? And the devil is lust. It was so simple back then, right? Not easy, but simple. Anyway, I'm going to let it go here, and I will talk to you later. Thank you for watching Cherie's weight loss journey and some of the things that she thinks about, because like right now, we're in such a precarious state where, we're fearing, the onset of a World War III. And a lot of that is because, the Democrats are like, the liberals. Democrats don't see themselves as liberals, but they are liberals. They're liberal in their thinking. They think that this is the way of progress, and even if it's not a way of progress, then it's at least, a means to, self-gratification. And then you have these other, other people who are like, no, conservatism is the way to go, but here's one thing that I did recognize, as a result of every time the Democrats, win the election. When the Democrats win the election, there's no hostility from the conservatives, right? They just try to do better, right? However, when the conservatives win, then there's all of these, it's like they're poor losers. The conservative people, they're not poor losers, but the Democrats, they're the poorest of the poor losers, right? And it was like, yes, but when you were in office, when you were in power, you were sending everybody to hell in a handbasket, and you didn't care. So, one of the things that I had heard about was, and I thought was kind of profound, is the only way that bad people win is when good people do nothing. And I was like, wow, that's so true. The only way that bad people win is when good people do nothing. And then that brought me full circle about enabling, bad behavior, even with good intentions. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that was interesting. And I'm going to leave it there. And bye.